Hey guys, this is Peter. I'm coming to you today from San Salvador. I'm actually just on the top of a hill here in this place called La Puerta del Diablo, Devil's Door. And let's just show you around here. The devil has a pretty sick view of the entire area. It's quite beautiful in this area. Get down there. Quite nice. So yeah, El Salvador. I'm taking a nice little trip through Central America here. And I saw somebody ask the question, what is the best thing you have ever done? All right. So, to answer that question, the best thing I ever did happened about just over 3 years ago. Actually, no, 4 years ago. It was pretty much 4 years ago, almost to the date. All right, so to put things into perspective, about 4 years ago, I was living in Toronto. I was living with a girlfriend at the time, and I was working in a cubicle, and it was pretty nice. It was a good life that I was living. It was very comfortable, very enjoyable, but at the same time, I was sitting on top of a mountain of debt. Okay, I owned a house at the time, but I'd made a few really bad financial decisions, and essentially I had put myself into an unsustainable level of debt. I was not making enough money to even cover my monthly payments, and it was just a really bad situation to be. So about 3 years ago, I always sort of knew I had this option, if I wanted it, to leave the job that I enjoyed and leave the city, Toronto, or I liked living there. I enjoyed living there at the time, and go up north. I had a friend that I used to work with, and he got a job working up in Labrador City, where he was doing some work at an iron mine. And it was a cold, desolate, semi-isolated kind of area. Not exactly too isolated, I guess. It's sort of Labrador, But anyway, it was nothing I was really thrilled to go do. But there I was, sitting on top of my insurmountable level of debt and not really knowing where to go next, I referred to myself I always referred to taking this job as the nuclear option, because it would essentially obliterate everything. I mean, yeah, it would take out my debt, but it would also sort of just, in a way, destroy the life that I had built up there. But I was left with no other choice. Sit down here. And I wound up making the decision to quit my job and take on another job going to survey up north in Labrador City. And this was sort of like a really intensive job. Okay, it was a fly-in, fly-out position where I would fly out for 4 weeks straight. So for 28 days straight, I would be working 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day. And it was sort of in the environment I was working. It was I started there in January, and it was cold. All right, like it got to the level of cold where you had to pay attention that you didn't breathe too quickly, because it would get down below minus 50 some days. Okay, and if you breathe too quickly, if you breathe in too much cold air, ice crystals could form inside your lungs, and then they could cut up the inside of your lungs, and leave it as scar tissue. All right, we don't need that. And there were bears up there, and on top of that, I'm working in an iron mine, and mining's a very, very dangerous occupation. For anybody who knows it, you know what I'm talking about. Fortunately, the company I worked with, we were contractors for a big mining organization called Rio Tinto, and we used to joke that our job was 90% safety and 10% productivity. So we went through a lot of safety training, and there was a lot of all the proper safety equipment, of course, was provided. but at the same time, you were still working around these giant house-sized trucks designed to haul massive loads of ore. And so it was kind of crazy like that. I mean, there were a few incidents that went down when I was there, actually. I don't believe anybody died. Certainly nobody I know got seriously hurt. But I remember during that time there was a helicopter crash. One of the cool things about that, one of the cool things about that job that I took there was that I actually got to go up in a helicopter a few times, and they dropped me off in the middle of like this remote location, and I would go do a bit of work out in the middle of nowhere. And that was kind of fun. You got to take a helicopter ride. They're fun to ride in. But one of them crashed. It turned out one of the ones that took me crashed. It had like a mechanical failure of sorts, and that happened, and the pilot got injured, but he not too badly. He was back in a couple months or so. And what else happened? The other thing that happened, like we did some work on a building that burned down. There was an electrical problem. Something happened, and it got burned down. And the thing was that the building was right next door to the hospital in town, so they had to evacuate the hospital. So we kind of like this little tiny city, like Labrador City, made the news a few times when I was there, just because like evacuating a hospital's kind of a big deal. But despite that, I still felt safe. I never had any like crazy close encounters like that. The hard part of it for me was just sort of being away from home. I was in a serious relationship at the time, and so I had to be away for 4 weeks at a time. But you'd be on the phone for like an hour every night or so, and so that was kind of tough. And I'd be working for 4 weeks straight, and then I got 1 week back home before flying back. That eventually changed to 10 days, but it was like 7 to 10 days off after 4 weeks on, so it was a lot of work. Also during that time, I sold my house. I'd owned a house, and this house is actually the cause of a lot of problems too. I was renting it out, trying to make a little bit of money that way, but it wasn't really working either. I would rent to tenants, and they wouldn't take. They would end up trashing the place and not paying their rent, and it was more of a headache than it was worth. Okay, so I sold my house, and that took care of a lot of it. I got to quit making payments on like a mortgage, and insurance, and taxes, and bills. All of that just went away, And furthermore, when I was working up there in Labrador City, I actually got a lot of, I actually was able to work on myself quite a bit when I was up that way. When I went up there, I was into fitness when I went up there. I still am. But when I went up that way, there was no gym in town. So I actually simply wound up finding a book that was just sort of a book of body weight exercises. And I started following that. And I found out by doing body weight exercises that I could get in a better shape than when I was lifting weights in the gym. And so that was kind of good. I got into really good shape when I was out there. And because I was sort of like away from like my friends and all the distractions of the city, and life was pretty much just work, and then you go home and you'd cook dinner and you'd have a few hours, right? So, I wouldn't always just sort of be bumming around watching TV. I managed to read usually on average 3 books every single month. That's a record I haven't really been able to keep up with since. On top of that, I was really good. And furthermore, I discovered a lot of things about myself when I was out there. It was just a great time to remove myself from all the distractions of the city, all the problems that I'd gotten myself into, and have a chance to just work on myself. It's a windy up this here. It's pretty gorgeous, isn't it? So yeah, that said, it was very difficult. It was very difficult maneuver to make because I'd been so comfortable with the way my life had been up until that point, you know. But by going up there, and after working for a year, I'd cleared away all of my debt. All of it was gone, and I'd even managed to get ahead by quite a bit. So I was pretty happy for that. When I came back, I owed no money. I mean, there was nothing, you know, there like all my expenses were pretty minimal, and all my debts had been paid off, and it was this huge weight off my shoulders. Whereas before, I had been just juggling and just sort of living month to month, trying to scrape enough to get by, and, you know, making poor decisions along the way. Once I finished that, I vowed never to get into that level of debt again, you know? And I've been good. I've been paying off, keeping my credit cards paid off every month. And it's been, and yeah. It was, so, and yeah, like my daily level of stress is much lower. Furthermore, when I was out there, I actually got into I actually became a lot more spiritual during the time that I was out there. I discovered the website. I discovered like a few websites, or, you know, a few like sort of like online resources. You know, it's like some websites and some YouTubers talking about sort of spirituality, and it kind of like, you know, helped me to grow and change my perspective. I began meditating a bit more. I read a few life-changing books when I was there. And, you know, my entire perspective shifted. I was a very different person at the end of 2012 than at the beginning. So that's the best thing I ever did with my life. So my advice to anybody watching this is that if there's like, if you have some problems in your life and you got a way to solve it and you think it's going to be very difficult, go ahead and do it. Okay. I mean, the real value for me came in finding a difficult challenge and then accepting it and following through on it and doing the difficult things that needed to be done. Okay, that's really really how it worked out for me. That was the best thing that I ever did to improve my life. And you know, by just taking that one step to just get out of debt and, you know, hunker down and just nose to the grindstone and work, you know, and on top of that, like a few other things, right? Like selling my house or whatever, getting rid of the things that are holding me back, like my house was, you know, I was able to really move forward and grow and develop as a person. Like I felt like a completely new person by the end of that year. So that would be my advice. If there's something difficult in your life that you think needs to get done, do it. You're not going to regret it. You'll be happy you took on the challenge, and you'll be a better person for having completed that challenge. Okay? And that's all I have to say about that right now. So thank you for listening to me ramble on about this. It's been a pleasure coming to you, talking to you from the La Puerta del Diablo, the Devil's Door in San Salvador. Give you one last view of the canyon over here. Look at that. Gorgeous. So, for more videos, hit subscribe. If you have any questions, go ahead, leave them in the questions thing, and I will talk to you some other time. Until then, keep on being awesome.